talking about Abernathy Brief, specifically selling against the Ginsburg Essentials book, right? So it's the #1 selling book on the market. Abernathy Brief was specifically designed to go against Ginsburg Essentials. And so we want to take that time today to kind of dig into that scenario. And then I also just sent you a refresher email this morning with the Abernathy versus Ginsburg differentiation grid that was sent out a few weeks ago. We're going to be kind of using that as a foundation for today's discussion. I can't stress enough that if you do take some time, spend some time with that differentiation grid and really read through it, it's going to make you a better American government rep, especially selling against Ginsburg. So, and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end, so definitely, you know, get your questions ready. Monica, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica. Hi, guys. So remember at the sales meeting, for those who were there, that American government is this huge, like, million-student, crowded market with so many different books and versions, digital, loose leaf, pricing all over the place. But there's one thing they all have in common, and that is the table of contents. It is standard. It's across the nation, all the syllabi. And so just knowing that kind of helps you for positioning. So know that you have all the contents you need with Abernathy Brief. So let's talk a little bit about Abernathy Brief versus Ginsburg We the People Essentials, which is this one we have on the screen. That means it has fewer chapters on policy than any of the other We the Peoples, and that's why it can compete against Abernathy Brief, which has 1 chapter on policy. So we signed and developed Abernathy Brief specifically, as Erica said, with We the People Essentials in mind. We developed every single chapter while reading every single chapter in We the People. And the reason we did that, if you remember the spectrum, the American government spectrum, Abernathy is right in the middle, and it competes against a whole bunch of books like Marone and Shea and Gear and Ginsburg. And we chose Ginsburg because it captures about 12 to 15% of the market. That means it sells 30 to 35,000 copies in a year. And so we want to go after the biggest piece of the pie. So Ginsburg, Lowy, Weir Essentials. Okay. So when you look at these two books, they actually have a shared ultimate goal, and that's to have students participate, get involved, civic engagement or civic participation. And many American government courses across the country have this as an end goal. So it comes through in these two books, but through very different styles. And it's all connected to what these authors are about, how they teach, what they care about, and how they communicate with students. We thought we'd start out by asking you, can anyone give me a definition, and it can be loose, a definition of civic engagement or civic participation? What does it mean?
Attending a lobbyist event or going to Civic Hall, you know, being live on C-SPAN in the courtroom. Right.
Exactly. And that a great example, a great definition. It's really just citizens coming together and getting involved with their community at a state or at a local or a national level. And every student has the means to get involved in their community. And so that's just what it is, that ultimately they should be motivated and interested to get involved, improve their life. So why does it matter? Why is this a goal? Why would American government professors even want this to be a goal for their book? Why should we care about civic participation?
Policy.
Right.
It has the potential to change policy is one. That's one.
Right. Students, as I said, are citizens. They should be able to communicate with elected officials, and they should be constituents. They should be responsible and accountable, because we're all trying to improve our life and improve this nation. So it's just all about motivating them to care about what's happening in this nation and in the world. So, okay. And you know, and we're seeing this. We're seeing this live in Parkland. I mean, I hate to use that as an example, but in Parkland, Florida, you've probably seen Emma Gonzalez on her with her speech. It was so incredible and moving. She's speaking at gun rallies, and she's like 17 years old, 18 years old. So that is a classic example of civic participation. Okay. So, and just to sum up sort of a problem in the American government course that this mission or this goal is solving, it's relevancy. Students often don't understand why they're taking the course, why they have to take the course, why they should care. And it's like they will understand by the end of this course that the reason they need to know about it post high school civics courses is because they can get involved. They can actually make a difference in their life and their family's life. And so that's something you'll want to, bring up when you're talking to a professor, that it solves a problem of why this is relevant to their life, why it's important. Okay, so these two authors, as I mentioned earlier, they both want students to get involved, but they do it differently. So Ginsberg Lowy Weir is really popular, and there are lots of reasons for it. Some reasons to remember are the chapters are very short, the writing is very clear, it's very direct, it's really uncluttered in the chapters. There's one box, and it's on participation. It's very simple. It's almost like vanilla. But you know what? People love that because they have all kinds of digital with which it can be complemented. They have bundles. They can have their own theme integrated in by just using this as like a backup. And it's almost like just lowest level blooms. Just here's the nuts and bolts, memorize it, and do something about it. And so it's just like first level blooms, memorization. So Abernathy is just a different kind of person. The person that Abernathy is comes through in his book. He's extremely thoughtful, really cares a lot about students, has been connected to students since grad school and even in high school. He used to really coach a lot of students. And so he goes one level higher in Bloom's. He uses stories. He uses real stories about real people. And he talks about the choices that they've made that have made an impact on government or policy. And so by the end of the book, after reading all about these real people that have made choices and taken action and gotten involved politically and made a difference in their lives, students are actually really motivated. The students that have used Abernathy Big have loved it. So this is just a really concise version of that. And it's more thoughtful, it's relational, it's motivating, and it allows students to go to that next level of Bloom's, which is sort of analysis and synthesis. And so why do we care about that? You can actually go to the next slide. Oh, actually, you wanted to ask some questions, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, so we're talking about this idea of civic engagement as kind of a foundational piece of both of these books. And so I just wanted to kind of throw it out to you guys now and just ask you, in the calls that you've made so far, or, in these situations, what are the types of questions that you have asked or that you think you could ask to really open up this discussion around civic engagement as a course goal?
You can just kind of ask, what are the goals of your course, just really general.
Absolutely. So that would be the first thing that I would ask, honestly, because you first want to confirm that civic engagement is indeed actually important to them and a course goal. So absolutely, that's always the first question to ask is about around course goals. What else?
You can ask too, like, how do you engage your students in the course, or kind of like talk about, what you do outside of the classroom too, like bringing in current events.
Yep, absolutely. Another great question is we talked about this idea of civic engagement solving the problem of relevancy. So just ask them, how well does the Ginsberg book make these concepts relevant to your students? This is another great question to ask. Okay, Monica?
Okay, great. And so, just continuing with what Erica was saying, remember that this is not a high school civics course. This is college. And one of the key outcomes of college is for students to leave with a mastery of critical thinking skills, analysis, interpretation. So asking them about their outcomes for the course, as Erica mentioned, and just sort of how they like to motivate their students is really important. So pointing out there's so many examples throughout all the chapters, and in that grid, differentiation grid, we gave those to you, but from James Madison to Ferguson, Missouri, it shows how getting involved, understanding what happens in government, and getting involved can actually help you get what you need out of life. So I think, oh, and so we were going to talk to you a little bit about critical thinking, sort of how this book promotes critical thinking by getting them to read, analyze, and be active. But Erica, do you have some questions on critical thinking that you wanted to pose to them, or?
Oh, I was just going to ask them, you know, how in your calls, what kinds of questions, you know, do you ask to get at this idea of critical thinking?
What sort of exercises do you do to get your students to think outside the box and think critically?
Yep.
That's good.
I have a quick question too. Sorry, guys. I don't know if this is like off topic, but we just talked about it. It says in the features box for the Ginsburg book that this last little like what can you do box provides students with specific examples. Is that like similar to the Abernathy, but just not in the storytelling package, or like what? I don't remember if we looked at that at NSW or not, but what, like those the number 5 and number 6 on the features in the Ginsburg book, are those all similar to the stories that we have in the Abernathy, or it looks like they're kind of similar?
No, I think that going back to what I would say, Monica, and you maybe can expand on this.
Go ahead.
I think that what Monica said earlier, the way that Ginsburg does it when it comes to like what can you do civic participation is very, very direct. It's literally like,
Okay.
here are the nuts and bolts, here are the concepts, here's what you can do, now go do it. Versus
Go to a rally, make a poster. Yeah.
much more kind of inspirational approach where he's like, here are examples of real people, real young people, what they've done, choices that they've made, and how they've made a difference. So, you know, his approach to getting students engaged is to actually inspire them to be like, well, I want to do that too. I read this great story about how this one student made a difference on their campus with gun control. I feel empowered to do that as well. So they're both getting at that idea of civic engagement, but they're, you know, Ginsburg is just very, very vanilla, very direct, versus Abernathy, who's much more about inspiration and inspiring students to do it.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah. You've really nailed it. So We the People is really like very basic and simple, whereas Abernathy will tell them about real people and sort of like all of these actions that they took that changed the nation. So look in the public opinion chapter on Michael Brown and Black Lives and the Black Lives Matter movement, and they can see how choices and actions actually impacted government, so that students are, as Erica said, they're inspired. This is supposed to make them think about it and how they can actually apply that same sort of action and choices in their own life. Does that help?
Okay, so would it be fair to say that like Lowy Ginsburg tells you what you can do and Abernathy gives you an example of someone who's done that?
Yes.
That's a good way to say it, but I also want to be sure that it's clear there is a Lowy Ginsburg book, but that competes up high level with Cornell, and that's almost like a rational choice type of book. But Ginsburg, Lowy, Weir is really middle level. No,
Gotcha.
common mistake, and they're all out there and they're all on campus, and so I'm actually really glad you're almost like a plant. I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm a fern.
Especially in the American government, it'll be Lowy up here with Cornell and Coleman and Janda, and then in the middle will be Ginsburg, Lowy, Weir competing against Abernathy here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like the way you said it, though.
Okay, thank you. I'll say it more today.
So we're actually out of time, but there are just a couple quick little things that we want to remind you of. So we talked about the content itself, critical thinking, civic engagement, but quite honestly, there are a lot of people out there who will tell you that they use We the People essentials because it's brief and it's less expensive, right? But take a look at this. This is the superficial stuff that matters to some people. Take a look at this. We're way shorter, 160 pages shorter, one few less chapter. Not only that, but look at the $20 price difference for the paperback, right? So we are cheaper and briefer by a lot than the Ginsburg book. So if that's really what's driving their decision, you definitely point that out.
Yeah.
And then the one, last kind of reminders, you have a few other things in your back pocket that you can use to get your foot in the door. The Lecture Spark series. So we've been kind of sending these out. We've seen some good traction. Our analytics are showing that our click rates are going up. I want to just put it out to you guys now. Has anybody had any luck with these? Have you guys been sending them out to your customers, and have you heard any feedback on them?
I've sent a few out and I have gotten no feedback yet,
Okay.
Okay.
but I have sent some out, yes.
Okay. Yeah, we have heard from some other reps that they are having success with this. So if you're asking that question around current events and how they incorporate current events, please let them know that we have this. And it's really easy for them to basically opt into the website or even just bookmark it and come back and check it every week, because we post new ones every week. And a lot of instructors are finding these to be very useful. So. And remember that you've got the trending topic series. Fake news, immigration, and all the state-specific guides. Again, these are great bundling items. They're great for custom. So just remember that you have these.